This is ITV.
Certainly the best.
Good afternoon, welcome to Business This Week on ITV. I am Blessing A2. Today we have two exciting discussions. First, we'll look at the TRANS-SAHARA gas pipeline project of the federal government and of course with Niger and Algeria. And then we'll look at surging inflation at 17.71% in Nigeria and World Bank projection what that would do to 1 million of Nigerians by the end of 2022. So stay tuned as we bring you the first segment of the show, which is a roundup of business activities for the week. Stay tuned. Now, Business Roundup, the federal government, experts and operators in the oil sector are investigating the possibility of gas deposits in Enugu State, particularly around the vicinity of Caritas University, following the fire incident that raged for about 3 weeks from a gas reservoir in the institution. Also, the government announced that it had embarked on a survey of hydrocarbon deposits across the country as officials of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, an agency of the federal government, stated that the fire from the gas reservoir at Caritas University suddenly stopped on its own. The fire at the reservoir erupted on May 22, 2022, after workers were drilling a borehole in the area, noticed a gas leak in the site, which was discovered not to have erupted from a gas pipeline. The Chief Executive Officer, NUPRC, Gbenga Kumolafe, told journalists that investigations were going on at the site to ascertain the level of deposits in the reservoir. He also stated that other states in Nigeria were being surveyed for hydrocarbon deposits as well, adding that this was being done by the federal government through the commission, its partner agencies and experts. Responding to a question on whether investigations were ongoing to determine the country's hydrocarbon deposit, Komolafe, who was represented by the Arizona coordinator, NUPRC, Enorise Amadasu, said, yes, that is presently being done. Moving on to a second story, oil marketers on Thursday said they had escalated their call for an increase in the pump price of premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol, to the federal government, as the current cost of the commodity was no longer sustainable. Also, PMS transporters confirmed that they had resumed operations in full following last week's raise in the freight rate being paid by the federal government for the transportation of petrol nationwide. Amidst the call for petrol price hike and full resumption of operations by transporters, the queues by motorists for PMS in Abuja, a neighboring state, grew longer on Thursday. The Deputy National President, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, Zama Mustafa, said that the federal government had been put a notice concerning marketers' intentions to increase petrol price. Meanwhile, the national president, Nato Yusuf Othman, said that the association was optimistic that the petrol queues caused by the earlier suspension of operations by some members, particularly in Abuja, would clear fast. Recall that last week, President Muhammadu Buhari approved an increase in the freight rates being paid to transporters of petroleum products in a bid to clear the persistent fuel queues by motorists in parts of the country. And finally, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Housing Authority, FHA, Senator Gbenga Barihu Ashafa, has disclosed that the federal government would leave no stone unturned to address the estimated 17 million housing deficit in Nigeria before the end of the current administration, which is May 29, 2023. Gbenga Ashafa made a disclosure at the soft launch of an estate in Lugbe, Abuja. According to him, the data of housing deficit in Nigeria do not always capture unoccupied houses. The FHA MD said the agency has just completed about 300 houses in Zuba for the low-income earners, added that a lot of houses have been delivered to Nigerians within a short period of time. That's done business roundup. We're going to break to return now and begin discussing Trans-Sahara gas pipeline project of the federal government. Stay tuned. Okay, thank you for staying tuned. Now let's begin looking at the Trans-Sahara gas pipeline project of the federal government, but it's a tripartite agreement between Nigeria, Niger, and of course Algeria. That's actually to take gas, natural gas from Nigeria or from Africa, being that it's not just Nigeria involved, to the European market, as that is short in supply owing to the Ukraine-Russian war. So I have with me a guest in the studio, Dr. Saze Iyua, who's an economist. But later on, we'll be joined by an energy expert who would also be a part of the conversation. So let's meet our guest today. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for honoring the invite. Okay, now let's look at this plan of 3 countries in Africa, Nigeria, Niger, and of course Algeria, trying to get into the European market supplying gas, as there is a shortfall, energy crisis, if you like, in Europe, owing to Russia-Ukraine war. So this agreement, in February this year, the MOU was signed by Nigeria, Niger, and of course Algeria to have that start up. So, what's your take on the feasibility of this project?
Yeah, it's in fact it's important to say that the whole project was the whole proposal was vetted about 40 years ago.
Okay.
In the 70s. You know, that's when the whole proposal started. But it was now formally signed in 2009. Then, just as you said, February, action plan was now put in place, and a task force to monitor and bring this whole proposal to permanent fruition was now vetted in February this year. That's when the formal agreement was signed between the 3 countries. So it's all been in the pipeline, but it's now we are seeing action. But even at this point, I think it's not, there are still no, but there have been visible moves. But the point is, as you said, the source is from Warri, the source of the gas supply. Then it goes through northern Nigeria, Niger Republic, then through Algeria. The thing is that the North Africans, they've been well set up all the while. In fact, Algeria, as of 2010, was the largest supplier of gas to Italy. 2013, when they started having production issues, then the supply reduced. Italy had to change source to Russia. So you see that Algeria, Morocco have been constant suppliers of gas to Europe before. So it's just we now using their facility, which has already been existent, the Algerians. So we are taking it from Nigeria to Niger to Algeria. But as you talked about, you said the feasibility, benefits first. The benefit is going to be enormous. If it comes to fusion, it means that we'll get forex from there. It means we are diversifying our source, because gas seems more eternal, seems more useful than oil. We are talking of phasing out oil to renewable energy, but gas will always remain. So benefits is enormous, forex, a ready market. But the feasibility is what I have a problem with. You know, there's this feeling that the black man or Africans generally are not able to sustain business ventures. You see, I said earlier that 2010, Algeria was the highest producer, largest supplier of gas to Italy in 2010. But by 2013, Italy had to change because Algeria has started having production issues. They were not able to meet capacity, started having issues with production with Morocco, because they go through Morocco to supply to Spain. They had problems with Morocco, so Italy started finding that there were reliability issues and stability problems, so they had to switch to Russia. So that's the problem I have with us. Because of our production, the Niger Delta, the restiveness in those areas could be a factor. You know, look, you see recently they say we have not been able to meet our production quota by OPEC. They've given us 1.6. Our budget is 1.8, but we've not gone. Today we are producing at 1.4. Why? Because of restiveness in the Niger Delta, then oil theft. And the major reason is that because most companies, exploration companies in the oil industry have left. Because they can't imagine, so one of the oil firms was saying that they put, from the exploration point, they put as much as 100,000 barrels into the pipeline, and at the export terminal, just about 10 or 20 barrels come out. So it means that some 80,000 barrels is lost in between. So, and that's shortage. No oil firm want to continue doing that. So that's why most of them have left. So it has affected production. So the Europeans or the generally the white man wants reliability and stability. The white man is ready to pay for a pineapple to make his juice, pineapple juice, for 1 million naira for just one pineapple. But be sure that it's reliable, it's constant, you are frequent, you are reliable. Whenever he needs his pineapple, you bring it for him to do his pineapple juice. But by the time you now start having stability issues, you bring today, tomorrow you can't bring, there will be issues. So that's why I have a problem with our reliability and stability. Can we continue long term? Russia has been supplying Europe between 150,000 to 190 cubic feet meters of gas constantly over the last decade. So Russia, Algeria, we said, could not do it for 2 years. So can Nigeria do it? What happens when vandalization starts to hit our pipelines of this gas? Then we cannot meet our capacity. Then Europe is actually looking at us now just because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So they are almost like in a fix. So that's why they are looking at us. If not, in the last 40 years, we would not have been having they wouldn't have had any business with us. But now they are trying to diversify their source of gas from Russia. You know, they have said, in fact, Biden said that we should go beyond the point.
We have on phone joining us Marvelous Omobayo, who is an energy expert. Hello, Marvelous. Good afternoon. Hello. Okay, Marvelous, we can barely hear you. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the issue of the Trans-Sahara gas pipeline project of the federal government in collaboration with Niger and Algeria, how do you see this becoming possible, given that it's 3 different countries coming together to do a business? Can you turn down the volume on your TV sets? Turn it down, please.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead. It's a bit okay, but I think you still need to move away from your TV sets.
Okay. I listened to our guest, and in addition to all he said, let me quickly chip in something. That at the time that agreement was reached, or it was originally finally launched in 2009, according to the estimate, the financial estimate there, that the pipeline is going to cost over 10 billion euros. That is between 10 to 13 billion euros, with a length of about 4,000 kilometers that will be completed in 3 years. That was in 2009, and we are in 2020 now. And in addition to that, the Trans-SAHARA, the gas pipe will be able to transport between 20 to 30 billion cubic meters per year. That was some 13 years ago. And this is where we find ourselves now. So in trying to juxtapose with the other speaker or try to have a balance, the idea is how can this be implemented? It's good in the years. What is do we have a proper feasibility? I learned the one they had before was tentative, that they were trying to change 1 or 2, but we don't have those values and figures. But what we can quickly do is how it's going to impact on us, assuming that this can come to fruition. Yes. So what is the advantage? What to the common man? How cherry is this news? Of what impact will it be to us?
Yeah, let's understand the benefits to bring to Nigeria economically and, of course, the common man.
So
what benefit with these? Let's assume that this business arrangement goes through. What would be the benefit for Nigeria first, and then the common man in Nigeria?
Okay, from my personal view, I would like to, it's an opinion. If they look at opinion, if that opinion I'm going to raise here is a part of the agreement, I think it's going to benefit us the most. So because when you're talking about benefits to us as a people, you look at the immediate, the feel it you get as or impact you get quickly as a people. For instance, if you were happy about the three countries, Nigeria, Niger, and Algeria, coming together to allow themselves being used as a material medium to transport gas to Europe, it's a cherry news, yeah. But let's look at it properly. Are you me?
Yes, of course, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. Let's look at it from this point. We have this deposit in millions and trillions of debt far in our head crust, yeah. We have, sometimes we have to flare some of them off when we're trying to do our normal refining process. And sometimes we have to use some technology to even keep the ones we have so that they will be there, so that we don't have to cause explosion or any environmental hazard. So it is good that this is coming at this time. Like my other man actually mentioned that this has been for almost 40 years now. So, but when you talk about the benefit, for me, I'm looking at we donating the gas reserve is like an equity now.
Okay.
If we are donating the gas reserve, say, okay, it's going through. Remember, the three ministers signed this. But even on the Chad Basin, that is another country on its own.
Yes.
They're also going to benefit because it must go through all those northern small countries around before it even gets to Algeria. Yeah. So, but if you ask me, the first question I will ask if I am the president or if I am negotiating this is we have over 200 million Nigerians and we are solely dependent on cooking gas now.
Yes.
What can we do? Why we are giving it as equity out? Are there going to be expansion plans on the already existing LNG 27? How can we impact? How can we? Because originally that one was set up for export.
Okay, so it benefits us so that we gain benefit domestically in terms of having enough gas.
If there's any news that we are transporting gas to Europe, the first question will be that, okay, now that we are transporting gas, assuming it comes to fruition, what way that we are transporting it, we are buying gas at over 10,000 naira
domestic
per
gas.
kg. What corresponds? What is the effect? What's the multiplier effect of what cost benefit will it be to us? Will it reduce the cost by 50% or by 70%? And that can only happen when we expand our Tier 7, yeah. So the plans are already on their way. They'll be working on that. But beyond that, if we are giving that out because we want to earn foreign exchange, it will amount to nothing. Just the way we are exporting crude now, and we are buying crude diesel at 800 naira. We are buying petrol.
Okay, marvelous. We'll get back. We'll get back on the conversation. Let's go on a quick break to get headlines. Just hold on. We'll get back. Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Talking Business. We're still looking at the Trans-Sahara gas pipeline project of the federal government in collaboration with Niger and, of course, Algeria. That's a project valued at $13 billion. Now, before we get back to Marvelous Omobayo, who's a petroleum dealer and is also an energy expert. I want Dr. Sazayua to respond to some things that he was saying, having some kind of trade by barter arrangement. Now, if we're exporting natural gas, we already have a shortage of domestic gas here, and that's why the price of domestic gas keeps increasing. Now, he was looking at how we can have a kind of arrangement where there's an expansion in terms of our domestic gas supply. and even production here while we give out natural gas. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, so that might end up being like what we are doing with our current fuel situation, where
Yes.
we are exporting
Crude
gas.
and
So
getting
yeah,
back petroleum
that could
products.
be a nice arrangement too. So you get domestic gas, refined gas,
Yes.
in exchange. But at the same time, you of course know that a refined product would be of higher value.
Yes.
So it means that you still have to pay something. You would have to pay the differential because it's going to be refined there. So if that's fine, if that's an arrangement, but between us, I don't know. If the arrangement would end up being making a direct import of domestic gas cheaper, then it's fine. So we probably will not be costing or charging them for the cost of the raw liquefied the natural gas. Then we pay the differential, fine also. But it also speaks to the inefficiency, the fact that we have found ourselves here that we are not able to refine our own gas. I know it also speaks to, and just like I said, it speaks to the fact that I don't know, this is just a tight situation that the Europeans are. That's why they are resorting to us. I don't see it being a long-term agreement between Europe and
we
Africa.
have Marvelous joining us again. Okay, now, so we were talking about the possibility of having a kind of arrangement where we get more supply of domestic gas and while we export natural gas. How would that be possible? Energy has already said that primarily they were set up for export. Would it be expanding their capacity to produce more for domestic use? How would that work out?
Export what you don't even have around you. But of course, we need to generate foreign what they call foreign
exchange.
Exchange, yes, to assist the economy. But we can do two things. Now we have the gas is there, nobody is using it. If there is a gas line connection, they can take that. Then they do a kind of direct purchase arrangement, like the ones for the petrol and diesel. That is one. But number two, if you ask me, if you export your gas and they refine it and bring back to you, all those costs, the transportation cost, the refining, the cost of refining and all of that, we also take up the price again.
Okay.
So although it may not be here, so I will be thinking that why we are working on this 4,128 kilometers of the length as they are doing it, as they are working on it, so up to Nigeria, there should also be an agreement saying that okay, let us set up a smaller kind of the train 7 is going to be a very big arrangement. If we can't even get something up to that, something that will just assist us, that could give us some tonnage here that can improve our gas supply by maybe 30% in addition to what we are having now. Because if the product is available, price will drop naturally, yeah. But it is because the gas is not even available. You go to several depots after they take their 70% off for export, then you get them giving level PS and all of them small. So we are up again for the next 2 weeks to be looking for gas. Assuming we can get them so okay, we are giving you the gas. While we are doing any type of arrangement, that will be in the long term. But can you quickly set up something for us within this period of 3 years, 2 to 3 years, something that we improve what energy is already doing? That one will just be solely for domestication purpose, yeah, so that it can drop our price, so that our people will know. They will even think at the point we are exporting they will not know that it is what was set up like
maybe a kind of return channel.
Yes, that is bringing down the price. What our people want to hear is how much is a 12% now after
okay.
That is what an average man will ask. But Nigeria as a country will be looking at the foreign whatever.
The foreign exchange.
If it does not translate to what we are talking about now to reduction of price, I don't think it's a win for us.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Marvelous Mobile, for being with us on the show today.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Now back to you, Dr. Saze here. He's talked about how we can have a kind of return channel for that purpose. So while we're exporting, we also have a way of getting back directly the domestic gas. Because if it was to be imported, then of course the landing cost and every other charge will apply, and then it becomes very expensive and out of the reach of the common man.
That's why I said earlier on that if at the end of the day we do our calculations and we see what the cost of direct imports of domestic gas is, then the cost of direct import is 100 naira, then the cost of this, the differential between the natural gas we are exporting and the domestic gas or the refined gas which they are bringing to us, if we see that the differential is just about 40 naira, so instead of us paying 100 naira for a direct import, then we pay the 40 naira differential, then that's fine. But I still think that it's an embarrassment on a country as huge as the status of Nigeria to be thinking of trade by barter in the 21st century for a commodity as basic as gas.
Now, is it more complex? Is it more complex refining gas than refining crude oil for petrol?
No, I'm not an energy expert, but I think that from what I've read, I've read that it's even cheaper.
Okay.
It's relative to fuel. That's why you have the energy. So I don't know, but I think I don't know why the encouragement or the involvement in gas, just like oil, has not been as high, and the production, the requirement or the demand for gas is even higher. You know, but and it's more sustainable. Gas, I can't see gas leaving importance or relevance in the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's the same situation that has hampered us in the oil sector that is hampering the gas industry too, because importers or foreign direct investment into the gas sector is also being hampered with all that is happening in the oil sector. Security, vandalization, and so on. So as I was saying, it's an embarrassment that we are talking about trade by barter in the 21st century. We are supposed to be refining our hunger. We have reserves of over 100 trillion cubic feet meters of gas. And I think it's just an African problem. So as I was saying, Africa, I think these Europe, the European countries, just because they have been boxed to a corner by Russia, that's why they're even looking at Africa. But I don't see any long-term sustainability with Africa, because there's a precedence. Africa, we are not people who are very religious with agreements. I don't see us doing this I don't see Europe believing us on a long basis. US tried to negotiate with Qatar on their behalf, but Qatar did not, because of their ties with Saudi Arabia. So that's why there's this African connection. I said earlier on that Algeria was the largest supplier to Italy, but they couldn't meet up. They had problem with Morocco. They were highest suppliers to Spain and Portugal. They had problem with Morocco because the channel through which they were supplying Spain and Portugal went through Morocco. They had issues with Morocco, and immediately they cut Spain off.
Shouldn't that be a concern for Nigeria? Because Marvel has mentioned that beside the pipeline going through Nigeria and then to Algeria, it will also need to go across some neighboring African countries. So that's...
So it could be compromised anywhere along the channel. So
maybe sabotage.
Exactly. You see the Nord 1 and Nord 2 stream that supplies Russia directly to Germany. It goes through seas, oceans, and so on. So it seems a bit safer. But there can be compromises at any point in the in the chain. And you know, Africa, Mozambique has about 100 trillion cubic feet of gas, just like us. Tanzania is about 1.6. Angola. There are so many countries
that could actually be in the market.
Reserves, exactly. But why is Europe not considering this? So that means there's something they see. It's just the North Africans who have had some kind of relationship with Europe, maybe because they are proximity. But you see that Angola has as much reserves as us, but they have issues. So, you know, Angola just finished a world war, an infighting they had. Mozambique has 100 million cubic feet of gas also, but they have this neighborhood fight, this ethnic fight within them too, like 5 years, and the fight has been taking place in the area where the gas is. So you see that Africa has issues that have to be resolved. If not, the Europeans cannot rely on us. As I said, the Europeans are big on reliability, stability, and so on. So I think until Europe is just trying to use us to just fill a stopgap for now.
Okay.
By the time they resolve their problems with Russia and find other alternatives, I don't know how sustainable the plan will be. Yeah.
Now, in trying to key into the market why there is an opening for Nigeria, the completion of the project, well, there is no set dates for that as to when the completion of the project would be. But do you see us even being able to cash in on this opportunity before it leaves?
I hope so. I always like to be optimistic. But as we said, this proposal started in 1970. So it's 40 years old already. So I don't see what will happen now that did not happen in 40 years. It's just because of this Russia-Ukraine, the starvation that Russia has almost cut out Europe. So that's why there's some attention around it. Now, you know this is an election year in Nigeria. Election years, especially in third world countries, are almost, I don't know, let me not use the word useless, almost years that you cannot, governance just goes asleep. So it's just politics also. I don't see any visible movement. Because the Algerians don't necessarily need that, as I said. They are already supplying Italy. They are already supplying Spain. They are already supplying Portugal. So they are already in business. They are doing business. So we seem to need them more because we need their channel. All we need to do is take it to Algeria, then they help us escalate it to Europe. So it now depends on us. The ball is in our court. If we want to do business, then we'll join with Algeria, but they are not coming to kneel down to beg us. They are already in business already. So, and this period when Russia has cut Europe out, I think there's higher sales for them now with Italy. Italy has come back to them now to start getting that. There's so much shortage in Europe, so every available market is a market. It just shows to us now that planning is very necessary. In the last 40 years, we were just playing, we were not serious. If we had done all this arrangement, it's time to just start cashing out. But the normal Nigerian approach of fire brigade is at this point we are trying to rush, and these are not things that are done overnight. It's not just a matter of constructing those pipelines. Agreements, you know, these are international bilateral agreements. They have to be long-term agreements. You have to have lawyers. You have to. It has to be.
So before the agreement will be ratified and then it becomes effective, it's going to take a while, as well as infrastructure to support it.
Exactly. It's not beans and gari, they are saying. These are international arrangement in case there's any default. You know, these are
not to mention it's an agreement between three countries, African countries.
Exactly. So there has to be provisions for what happens when there's liability or when someone misses out or disobeys the agreement. So it's going to take a long logistic arrangement. So it just shows that we failed to plan. And here we are.
Well, we hope that while this opportunity lasts, we can actually, Nigeria can actually cash in on this. Like I said, it's a project valued at $13 billion. Now, according to the federal government, the investors have already started showing interest in that. So we do hope that in no time this becomes possible, even as they say too that they will update the feasibility study of this entire project. Okay, we'll leave that to rest for a while we move on to surging inflation in Nigeria. Now, the inflation report for the month of June just came out. Trust me, it is not funny at all. It's not looking good, over 17%.
Yeah. I remember we were in this program the last time when we talked about MPC. I was very definite. I said inflation was going to hit between above 17.5.
Okay.
And today we are on 17.71. Yeah, that's huge, you know. And this has been an 11-month high.
Yes.
And it's just food inflation is shown to have composed of about 70% of inflation.
Okay.
It's averaged at 19.05%. Urban inflation about 18.24%. Rural inflation about 18.24%. Urban inflation about 17.6%. So we have seen that all the inflation indices have increased. And when we are talking about food inflation, it's just worrying. We have talked about insecurity.
Yes.
I don't want us to go through all we have talked about inflation on this program, some insecurity, because CBN can do the much they can. AFDB, I heard just recently released a fund to provide wheat farmers, cereal farmers in Nigeria to produce. Anchor Borrower program is there. But you can give these farmers 100 billion naira to go and farm. We talk about Dangote fertilizer, but when they cannot have access to their farm, it's all babas. Because you have in the north, you have some states in there having to pay tax to Boko Haram to be allowed to go to their farms. In areas, even in small communities here, Odigweto and then ODG, they say you have to, there are days, it's like a timetable where they can go to farm. They were a man around town when they came to see that the vigilantes have to say on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the day we go to farm. So they go to their farms, probably 10 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, the vigilantes start blowing whistle that they should come.
And by that time, they may not have done enough work at the farms.
How much have we been able to do? I remember times when we had farmers, when I was growing up, they would leave after service, farmers in our church. They leave after service on Sunday, they go to their farms. Till Saturday, they don't come to Benin. They're in their farms from Sunday evening till Saturday.
And that's why that's why there was existence of farm settlements.
Exactly. You had camps in the farm. So they walk all through. You don't go to a farmer's house then, 5 o'clock. You don't meet him at home. He has left for his farm. He comes by 12:01. When the sun rises, then by evening he's gone to farm again. So all these 2 hours, 3 hours farming is not going to. So food production has been the problem, insecurity, and we seem to be sleeping over it. We hear of killings in Owo, you hear of this one, and this is the rainy season, so we are beating our time. So those are the contributors to inflation. We talked about food, forex. We've talked about it so much. But I would just want to say that very simply, we should take note that U.S. Fed, their bank, just CBN, because Fed just recently increased interest rates again to 8 their inflation
around 7 points,
exactly.
a bit over 7%.
By 75 basis points. Their inflation, that was what I was trying to remember, it's now about 8.6%. Over the last 41 years. That's the highest point. So that means ordinarily that their dollar will become strengthened. Because when you increase interest rate, it strengthens your currency. So it means that our naira will now need more naira
to exchange to the US dollar.
So it weakens now. So it means that it's more inflation, imported inflation. Because it now means that you need more naira. Since we're an import-dependent economy, you now need more naira to get less dollars for importation of items.
And we're already short on forex.
Exactly. So it means that most of the things we are going to import are going to become at a
more
higher
expensive.
Price. So I see inflation increasing to another 18, going to about 18%
in July,
in the next year, in the next month. That said, then diesel has still been, as of yesterday, it was 820 now for a liter. That's the highest.
And we have the fear of scarcity resurfacing now, gradually going from state to state.
Exactly. Then this dollar strengthening also affects debt servicing too. Because, you know, the government services debt in dollars. So it means that we'll now need more naira to service our debt, and the forex coming into the country has now reduced. Beyond the fact that oil has fallen from 126 to 119, the Minister of Finance said almost all our revenue receipts from crude oil earnings now cover subsidy. Subsidy was budgeted at the beginning of the year at 435 billion. When the PIA was cancelled and we brought subsidy by an increase to 3 trillion, and now World Bank is saying we are spending 500 billion on subsidy every month. So that means we might average 6 trillion. So the difference between the 3 trillion and 6 trillion is coming from debt. We are going to borrow, and we are going to service it at a higher rate. So it's just comatose for the country. Inflation would likely increase, and I see MPC, their next meeting in July, they will want to flow along the tide again and further increase interest rates. And that will further affect, because you know we said that this is not a demand problem, it's not a liquidity, it's not an issue of too much money in circulation, so increase supply, increase interest rate. So we are just doing follow with the other part of the world, but it's hurting us.
The problem is different.
It's different. It's a peculiar situation. This is not excess demand, it's supply issues. So when you increase interest rate again, it affects cost of borrowing, it also affects level of investment, investment drops, unemployment likely surfaces. So in solving inflation, you are hurting growth. Because what it means that when investment reduces, your level of output reduces, it affects growth. So it means that we are solving inflation, we are hurting growth.
So you're solving a problem and creating another.
Yeah, creating another.
Now, in a dilemma like this, what's the way out? Is there a way out?
Yeah, I would have thought that we'll just stick with whatever we're going to do. We were already encouraging manufacturers. How sincere that was, has been another problem. Are you giving the money to the monies that CBN was giving, was it getting to the right the people, the manufacturer, or some politicians were just keeping the forex? Then forex, we said give it to manufacturers, but we saw a lot of hoarding during the last election. So it means that manufacturers, we get some people sharing $20,000 in promise, all of a sudden forex increased. The CBN banned BDCs. I remember when we were here on a program when BDCs were banned. we were here with the prof, and I said foreign exchange will hit between $600 and $700. I remember I was listening to it just day before yesterday, and that's where we are.
Okay.
Then dollars was just about, I think it was just about 480
Yes.
something. Just within that week it increased, and now we are at 600. So it's even difficult to even say what should. It has been a cumulation of so many mistakes in the past. So at this point now, inflation we should not necessarily follow the tide of increasing interest rate. Let's continue increasing or encouraging supply. Get manufacturers enough forex to import. That will definitely crash the prices. The problem is shortage of supply. We are spending too much. Forex is high for this, out of reach for the manufacturer. So get manufacturers, get them, let forex get to the manufacturer directly.
Would that also mean giving access back to the BDCs, Bureau de Exchange Operators,
You know, I said
forex access? Because they seem to be closer to manufacturers.
That was the quickest. You know, they sort of bridge the gap between CBN and the manufacturer. So I said it last that when the BDCs were, it was going to cost. In 2016, we had the same issue when we withdrew licenses of BDCs. We came back to them again. So I see us coming back to them, but not in this election year, because now the politicians need dollars, so they are not going to.
Why not this election year? Because the World Bank has already projected that at the end of 2022, additional 1 million Nigerians will fall into poverty.
Yeah, clearly they even projected our inflation is going to end up at 22%, which is scary, and you see it's very, very clear. See, it's going. See the trajectory it is going, 17%, and we've now removed fuel. We are hearing marketers saying they should increase fuel subsidy. So if fuel subsidy leaves, imagine buying diesel at 800, now buying fuel
maybe at 1,000 plus.
800, 1,000 plus. That would be. I don't know the way to
it may even exceed 22%.
Ghana, our neighbor here, they are buying fuel at about 600-700. Their inflation rate today is 27.6%.
Wow.
Ghana. So
that's alarming.
So if it happens, in fact, if just 15 adds to fuel, I'm afraid but and government knows. That's why they are insisting on not increase. So I just hope that the managers of the economy put their acts together, and sincerity is the problem. We are not pursuing policies.
All right, we're out of time with this, but I think it's a fine place to rest the conversation today, while we're hoping that the managers of the economy, using your words, yes, actually take the necessary action to make sure that inflation does not go beyond what it is right now at 17.71%, and the World Bank projection of additional 1 million people falling into poverty does not come true, because I hear a lot of persons right now saying, God forbid. Well, I forbid it as well. With you, we'll hope for the right things to be done. Thank you very much, Dr. Sazavio, for being on the show.
Thank you.
That's it today. My name is Blessing H. Enjoy your weekend.
This is ITV.
Certainly the best.